Okay, so welcome back to part 2 of our lecture on North Korean communism. So as we have been discussing, beginning in the 1990s, this is when North Korea started to experience serious economic trouble. So with the collapse of the Soviet Union, North Korea lost its third world markets. And they also found that they were way behind in technology. It was beginning in the 80s that especially the United States, that we see the development of various computer technology, and the North Koreans were woefully behind in this area. They also experienced a series of droughts and floods which wiped out their food supply. And so in North Korea, there was widespread famine, and we have seen many pictures of North Korean children that are suffering from starvation and malnutrition and just simply do not have enough food to eat and had to rely on food aid from different countries. So this was also a big blow to the North Korean economy. Currently, the North Koreans also are still struggling in terms of their economy, and thus the need to resort to methods like counterfeiting currency. They also, as we all know, have been developing nuclear technology because this has been a way for them to, again, supplement their economy by selling weapons to other countries. And this has been a huge source of contention in the international community, particularly for the United States and South Korea and Japan. So China has been urging North Korea to open up its economy in much the way that they have, to allow foreign investment and to integrate their world economy into to integrate the North Korean economy into the world economy. We see that that's worked out really quite well for the Chinese, but the North Koreans refuse to do this. And part of this is because of their ideology. This is called Juche ideology. This was created by Kim Il-sung, and there are three parts to their ideology. First is the idea that North Korea is politically independent. The second is that North Korea is economically self-sufficient. And the third is that militarily they are able to defend themselves. So this is an ideology of self-sufficiency and independence. So they do not need to rely on any kind of outside or foreign power, but they can take care of themselves on their own. This again, if we look at the history of Korea, the fact that Korea had been colonized by Japan and dependent on Japan during that period. This is the North Korean way of exercising those demons by showing to the world that, okay, we've moved on from that and now we are completely independent and self-reliant. But what this means then is inherent in these three aspects is a criticism of South Korea. And so while North Korea claims to be politically independent, they point to South Korea as being a political puppet of the United States. While North Korea claims that they are self-sufficient economically, South Korea is dependent on the United States and Japan for economic support. And while North Korea can militarily defend itself, again, South Korea depends on the United States and their military aid. So we see this as this juxtaposition between North Korea and South Korea. And this Juche ideology is present in all kinds of North Korean propaganda. We see here North Korean soldier attacking the Capitol building and destroying it. And here are North Korean soldiers that are defeating American soldiers. And so this is very much a part of their ideology, that they are self-reliant and that they are fighting against U.S. imperialists who are a constant threat to North Korea. So this ideology is what the North Koreans subscribe to, but there are problems with this because there are practical limits. There's an excessive emphasis on one person, namely the leader. It stifles creativity and has lent itself to creating a repressive and very isolated country. And so the idea that North Korea is independent and self-sufficient means that, well, we don't need anybody else. We don't need to trade with anybody else. We don't need to integrate our economy into the world economy. But this has isolated North Korea from the rest of the world. It also means that there has been very coercive measures in North Korea. Very tight control of the organizations and one's evaluation. North Korean evaluation of individuals is based on one's ideological values and their loyalty rather than their class. And so this kind of institutional coercion we begin to see really tightening during Kim Jong-il's rule, and then following his death, Kim Jong-un. We see this continuing. All right, so what we end up with is this picture and this image of North Korea. They're kind of like this communist monarchy, very strong emphasis on family. So leadership is based on the immediate Kim family. We see this with Kim Jong-un, the leadership being passed down from son to son, or from father to son, and also his close ties with his sister, and so it's all kept in the family. And any members of the family that are considered to be a kind of threat are removed, as we saw with the removal of Kim Jong-un's half-brother. And then we also see this very, very authoritarian government. So this top-down leadership and top-down power that is exercised. But while this is true, right, and while by all means the North Korean leadership is extremely authoritarian and oppressive, and they have a very tight control on power and on what goes on within the country. I'd also like to try to present to you another side of North Korea. And it's, although we are presented with, and as we looked at the images at the beginning of this lecture in part 1, there is this creation of a very strong narrative of North Korea being, yes, repressive and authoritarian and tightly controlled, and as a consequence we have poverty and famine and very strict ideological control and information control. This is all true, but I'd also like us to perhaps consider another side to the story. And as we have been doing in this class, I hope that you've begun to, you have been able to see that the world is not black and white, that there's actually many shades of gray, and that there's always another side to the story. And so, although it's kind of hard for us to see that other side when it comes to North Korea, because they are so different and they're so closed off, and information is so tightly controlled, what we can glean is that they're not just robots, um, that, they are able to think for themselves, and they do have feelings. Um, they do have a certain amount of technology. We know that they use cell phones, and that that the outside influences have crept in. So here we see this boy with a Mickey Mouse backpack, and a man holding his son's picture in a Mickey Mouse frame. Um, the, these people may not be watching Mickey Mouse, or they may not be watching Cinderella and I don't know, Tangled and Mulan or whatever, but we do see these influences starting to creep into North Korea. Here is a scene from the subway in Pyongyang. This is not unlike, minus the pictures of the great leaders, this is not unlike what we might see in South Korea. The North Koreans, they also have, they go to school and they go to university, and they're learning science and technology, and they're bringing in foreign professors to teach them. So very similar to this particular scenario where we have a foreign professor teaching. So too, we see the same thing happening in North Korea. And the North Koreans are getting married, and there's quite a bit of fanfare that surrounds their weddings. And we see this couple getting married in a palace, or actually they're not getting married there, but they're taking pictures there. And this is very similar to what we could see at the palaces here in South Korea as well. North Koreans like to go on vacation, and they like to go to the beach. And there's quite a few of them that go to the beach at the same time, which is also similar to what we see at popular beaches here in South Korea during the summer holiday. And the North Koreans, they like to gather together and go on picnics and eat outside, and eat their Korean food outside. And this is, again, not totally foreign to what we might see here in South Korea. And of course, the North Koreans, they love to drink. They've got their beer, and they love to drink, and they love to drink. So, we see that North Koreans, they're getting married, and they're going to school, and they're going to university, and they're getting together with their family and with their friends, and they're doing many of the things that just people do. And regardless of the type of political system that they live under, they are still just going about their daily lives, and living their daily lives. And yes, they live under a completely different ideological system, which does not allow for any deviation from that. But we should not rob them of their humanity. And I guess that is really kind of the point of this lecture, is to, rather than just take at face value the images that the media feeds us of these rather robotic and brainwashed North Koreans that regurgitate Kim Il-sung ideology and have no independent thoughts of their own. We should really see them for who they are, which are, you know, human beings that still share quite a bit of similarities with South Koreans. North and South Koreans can communicate with relative ease because of the shared language. There are still many shared cultural aspects, and I hope that this, although our governments may not see eye to eye, and although there's a lot of political tension, I hope that on a humanitarian level we can still see that there are still some similarities and many reasons for us to reach out and at least attempt to see the other side of the story. All right, so thank you, and I will conclude with this picture. This was a foreigner, a Caucasian, who took this picture, and he was very surprised at the warm, welcoming reception that he received from this North Korean lady towards a foreigner. So there's quite a bit of work that we need to do on both sides of the 38th parallel, but despite our political and ideological differences, I do not think it is impossible to achieve.